Okay, so starting on the rear suspension rebuild of the Impala here. Its rear springs were just, they were getting really worn down. There's a couple spacers in the driver's side spring, and it's sitting so far to the, so close to the ground that right after I did the front end now, it just looks like the rear end's almost all the way up down, front end's sitting way up in the air. It looks goofy. I got some new springs for the rears here, some new lower control arms. I'm going to start with just doing that. Leave the upper control arms for right now in the panhard bar. Also have new air shocks for it, so that should solve the sitting real low issue, and then I can always go back to get the upper control arms at another time. But the harder issues, the springs and the lower control arms. So starting with that, and first thing I'm doing, just getting it up in the air. I think my goal here is to not do both sides at a time, not take the whole axle down. I'm thinking if I get this air shock out of here, then what I'll be able to do is stick maybe a 2x4 in between the axle and the top of the frame there, just to hold the axle away from this frame, so when I take this, put the jack under this control arm and lower it down, I should be able to just lower this down, get the spring right out, switch out the control arm, and then jack this spring right up into place onto this, into the place here for the axle. Hopefully that's going to be how it works. In all reality, what's going to happen is probably that once I start jacking up the new spring, it's going to be too big of a gap, going to start picking up off of this, and when I'm jacking up, this end's going to go up. So we'll see how that turns out, but that's what I'm going to start with, just disassembly, taking the air shocks off, and then seeing about going from there. Alright, so here we go. I was thinking about that problem where with the old springs the car's sitting lower, so what I did was I braced the car up just with a 2x4 here, cut it to the length, and it's braced between basically where the shock would mount on the top there, and in between on the axle here at the upper control arm there. So it's just holding the car up. I jacked it up, and then jacked up the body, I guess, and then just stuck that in there. So now the body's sitting up quite a bit farther than the way it normally would. So now when I lower the lower control arm down, this spring here, it's got a lot more play in it now. It's still not loose, but I think I should be able to at least lower this down and not have it be too low for the spring. So I'll be able to actually lower this down and get the new spring put in without any problems for me. Alright, so here we go. I just got the bolt out, the rear bolt on the axle off of the lower control arm. So got the piece of wood held in there, hopefully to hold the car up in place, and now I'm going to slowly lower down the jack and see how that works. Those are the spacers falling out. Oh, that actually worked pretty good. Kind of happy with how that worked. Nice, safe way to lower down the control arm. So I got a new set of control arms I'm going to be putting in with new springs. So there's one side halfway out, and when you get the front bolt completely off, the threads are locked around the rust on the handle, or on the outer threads of the bolt. So we'll see how that goes. It should come off though, but so far so good. Alright, so I got the front bolt out now, and that bolt there on the front side of this lower control arm is an absolute pain to get out, but it's out now. So looking at my spring, just now I finally see this. It looks like it was broken at some point. Might have been helping a little bit as to why it was so low on this side, but I mean, that's not a lot of spring that's broken off there, but it was broken. But yeah, this is the 3 spacer side. 2 of them already just fell out on their own. That one might too yet, but then I managed some fun stuff like this where I got a coil stuck around this, the housing here on the top for this coil spring here. So it's actually springing itself kind of into that place, holding itself in. So I'll get a fight with that, pulling that out, but besides that, everything here is out, and I'm ready to put my new control arm and new spring in. Alright, so here's a comparison of my old control arm to the new control arm and my old spring compared to the new spring. So the difference on this control arm is it's from UMI Performance. It's completely tubular, and it has these 2 bolt holes in there already pre-drilled. They got a piece of pipe in there that's welded in place. It's set up for a sway bar from UMI, which I also bought that. So my plan is to put a sway bar on this on the back end of the car now, so that I can reduce some of the body roll. And kind of with that, I bought this. It's actually a load leveling spring, so basically the more load you put on the car, the less it will compress. You can see it will compress a lot in this area, but less and less and less once you get up to the top here. It was actually one of the cheaper springs on Summith's website, but my thought was it will compress just a little bit, and that sway bar will allow the other side to compress just a little bit also, and so it'll kind of be easier for that sway bar to get the body leveled out. So that's my thought. We'll see how it works. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but either way it'll be a step up above the old spring here. And again, this is the bad one that was just sitting all the way down. I mean, once I had this car in here, it was sitting so low that the rear wheels were almost on the stops, and you can see the front end just sitting way up there with the new springs. It just looked goofy, so it was definitely time. But so here we are, and we'll see how it fits together, and we'll put this all up in there and see how it goes. Okay, here we are. We got some nice fancy parts in this nice rusty old car. Got the spring into place. First time I lowered it down, the spring wasn't seated properly on the top side, so ended up pulling the bolt back out here and raising it back up, get most of the way up, and spring popped right into place. Okay, lowered the body back down, jacked the arm back up, and then it was good to go. So one thing I messed up on is it specifically says in the instructions not to cut the rear bolt. Well, I did, because even if you buy the hardware kit, it only comes with 2 bolts. 2 bolts and 4 nuts. That makes complete sense to me. But anyways, I cut the bolt, so I'm going to have to buy 2 more bolts, I assume, because I'm going to probably do the same thing on the other side. But besides that, everything's been pretty flawless. And so, yeah, I have the old bolt in there. That's just so I can measure the new one and the other new one and get that measured. But the new bolt's in the front, so I'm going to tighten that up already, and then go ahead and yeah, start on the other side. You know, I should have measured the before and after here, but this is the car sitting down all by itself now. The left side has a new spring, right side has the stock spring, and I can notice that the left side is probably about 1 inch higher. I could measure, but that'd be accurate, so I'm going to go with it. Raised up the left side about 1 inch over where the already sagging right side was at, so this is without installing the air shocks or anything. So I think that's a pretty drastic improvement considering how the left side was sagging about 2 inches below the right side. So pretty good improvement for me, so I call that a win. I only have one side on, so now it's over to the next side. So I have the other side of the other side spring installed in the Impala now, and as you can see, it kind of does a pretty good job of leveling it out. The right side was lower after installed the left one, but here's what it looks like underneath. You can see exactly where all the new parts are. I have one of the air shocks put in, not the other side yet, but both the springs are in, and the lower control arms I bought new. So what I'm going to do actually is, even though I bought the sway bar, I'm going to hold off on installing it and try to get a feel of how the car will handle just like this without the sway bar installed, and then go ahead and install it, and just so I can kind of see the difference in the handling and the suspension like that. So as far as that goes, I just need to put the other air shock on and put in some plumbing, and then I think we'll be good to go.